The morning they fined me for Dad's tractor, I was sipping coffee under the porch flag he left me when he passed, and something inside me snapped like a dry fence post. It was quiet, early. Mist still clung to the low spots. The diesel smell from the old John Deere drifted from the barn. I'd just mowed the back pasture. The same chore I've done every Saturday since I was tall enough to climb the wheel well. Dad taught me on that tractor. Taught me to check the oil by the sound of the engine. Taught me that your name is the only thing you truly own. Then the HOA patrol car white SUV with a big blue decal rolled by on the shortcut. They love. A narrow strip we call Millspur. It crosses my property and cuts 10 minutes off the subdivision drive. They use it every day. They never ask. Most don't even wave anymore. And I let it slide because that's what neighbors do. Or used to. The SUV stopped. The HOA president, Linda Baxter, helmet hair, sunglasses, and a smile that never reached her eyes, stepped out with her little clipboard. 2 minutes later, she marched straight onto my gravel like she owned the rocks. Good morning. Thomas, she said, not looking at me, eyes fixed on the tractor. We've received multiple complaints about this farm equipment being in view from the roadway. It violates Section 7.3 unsightly machinery. Ah. I stared at her. Then at the John Deere. Then back at the flag. Unsightly, I said. That tractor kept your roads clear this winter when the county forgot you. Unsightly is forgetting who helped you. She slid a white envelope into my hand like a waitress tossing a check. You've been fined $300 per day until removed from view. You have 48 hours. Linda, I said, voice low, this is my land. That's my barn. My father's tractor. Rules are rules, she said. We all have to do our part, and the road your folks use. I asked, nodding at Millspur. Who owns that? She blinked, pursed lips. It's a community road. I smiled, the kind of smile that keeps your teeth hidden. No, ma'am. It's mine. She turned, already walking back. If you feel the fine is unwarranted, attend our appeal next Thursday at the clubhouse. 9A.M. Sunglasses back on. SUV door slammed. She drove off down my road, spitting pea gravel. My hands shook. The envelope felt greasy. I set it on the porch rail and ran my fingers over the carved letters on Dad's old cedar box where I keep papers that matter, deeds, maps. The title he made me memorize the day. Bought this place from him for $1 and a promise. He said, paper is memory that lawyers respect. Out back, the scarecrow leaned, hat askew. Beyond him, a thin line of orange survey flags fluttered at the property edge where Millspur begins. I'd gotten them set last spring. After the HOA beautification committee planted a row of Bradford pears half a foot over my line, their roots already threatening my gravel. I opened the cedar box. The deed crackled like old leaves. I traced the meets and bounds with my finger, whispering the calls the way Dad taught me. South 34 East to the iron pin at the creek. Thence north 12 to the locust. Thence along the old wagon right-of-way known as Millspur. My road, not theirs. There was no easement recorded. There never had been. And yet they'd come. Every morning, every evening. A steady stream, avoiding the four-way stop by the school where the sheriff sits. They'd wave sometimes, then stopped waving when Linda got elected. After that, the SUV started crawling slower past my fence, staring, writing. I tucked the deed under my arm and walked to the barn. Ran my hand over the hood of Dad's John Deere. The paint was faded and sun-warmed. The seat had a slit the shape of a smile. He used to put me there while he explained what right looks like. Not perfect. Just honest. The mail truck creaked up. The carrier leaned out. You got one certified, Tom? He said. I signed. It was from the HOA. Notice of intent to place lien. Chest went hot. They were serious. Over a tractor? I called the county clerk. Ma'am, I said, I need a copy of the subdivision plat for Mill Ridge and any recorded easements across parcel 17B. She was kind. Set the papers aside for me. Said, you know, We love that tractor of yours when it snows, Mr. Grady. After lunch, I drove into town. The clerk spread out the plat on the counter like a map to buried treasure. We leaned over it together. She traced Mill Ridge's boundaries with a pencil, then tapped the corner where the cul-de-sac meets my land. See?
What?
Their approved egress is Oak Lane. It's not Mill Spur. There's an emergency use license across a corner of your pasture expires annually, if not renewed. Last renewal was 6 years ago. Felt the slow grin again. So they've been using a license that expired. Looks like it. Bought 2 copies. One for me. One for Linda. On the way home, I stopped at Earl's diner. Earl's a lawyer when he's not pouring coffee. 2 cups and a slice of pie later, he'd circled the key lines on the deed and underlined license on the plat. A license is permission, Tom, he said. Permission can be revoked. An easement is a right. They don't have that. What about the fines? He snorted. HOA jurisdiction doesn't touch your parcel. You're not in their covenant. They can lick a stamp and send a letter, but a lien? Not without a judge. If they try, you bring this to me, and we'll make kindling out of it. Inside, the wind picked up. My flag snapped. I drove home slow, past the sheriff car parked in the church lot, past the feed store where old men wave from worn-out chairs, past the subdivision entrance where someone had propped a chalkboard that said yard sale Saturday in handwriting that looked hopeful. Back at the porch, the HOA envelope lay like a dead moth. I picked it up, slid the certified notice inside it too, and tucked both into the cedar box beneath the deed. The sun was lower. Long shadows across Mill Spur. A gray SUV eased down the shortcut another. Neighbor, saving 10 minutes. I stepped out to the road and raised my hand. The driver, a young mom with a car seat in back, rolled her window down part way. Everything okay? She asked, wary. Just a heads up, I said. You all may need to start using Oak Lane again for a bit. Got some paperwork to sort? Her face fell. Oh no. That adds so much time. She glanced at the car seat. Skip snap. I get it, I said gently. But this ain't on you. It's on folks who forgot how to ask. That night, under the porch light, I wrote a letter. 1 sentence. Plain as the dirt on my boots, to the board of Mill Ridge HOA. Effective immediately. Permission to use Mill Spur for non-emergency traffic is revoked until further notice. Sign my name. Made 3 copies. 1 for Linda, 1 for the clubhouse, 1 for the sheriff, so no one could say I didn't try to keep things civil. Then I went to the barn. Stood by Dad's tractor. Laid my hand on the steering wheel and felt the indent where his wedding band wore a groove. I heard his voice like gravel in a jar. Some fights are worth it, son. Especially the ones where your name is on the line. The next morning I set posts on either side of Mill Spur. Linda arrived before the cement set. She had 2 board members with her and a voice loud enough to rattle birds from the pines. You can't do this, Thomas, she yelled. You're obstructing community access. I pulled a paper from my pocket and held it up. Not obstructing. Revoking permission. Big difference. You'll hear from our attorney, she snapped. You'll hear from Earl, I said. Her eyes flicked to the flag above my porch, then to the tractor by the barn. 48 hours, she hissed, or the fines triple. I looked past her, down the road that used to be neighborly. I guess we'll see whose rules matter where. And for the first time in a long while, I felt Dad standing with me on that gravel, quiet as a promise. I set the gate at sunrise. A solid farm gate, green as the John Deere, hung on posts, sunk deep in concrete. No drama, no chain yet, just the swing and the click. On the left post, I screwed in a metal sign I'd had made in town. Private road license, revoked emergency access only. Below that, in smaller letters, contact Thomas Grady for arrangements. When I shut the gate for the first time, it made a sound like a seatbelt, like safety. I breathed easier. It lasted 8 minutes. A caravan of SUVs rounded the bend from Mill Ridge. School time. Commuter time. They rolled up to the gate, and stopped. The lead driver, Mr. Protein Shake from Lot 14, laid on his horn like he'd been born with his hand there. Windows slid down. Voices rose. What is this? Open up. We're going to be late. You can't block a public road. I stepped out calm, holding the rolled plat map and a stack of photocopied letters. Morning, I said. This is private property. You'll need to use Oak Lane. I've notified the sheriff and the fire department. Emergencies can pass. You can't. Linda's white SUV arrived 5 minutes later, lights flashing like she was law. She hopped out with a phone already recording. This is harassment, she said. This is retaliation for a valid fine. I set my jaw. This is me taking back what's mine. She shoved the phone closer, smiling for her audience. Why are you punishing families, Thomas? Why are you hurting children on their way to school? That one stung. I angled my body so the camera saw my sign. I'm punishing no one. I'm correcting a mistake that's gone on for years. A horn blared long and ugly. The driver behind Linda threw up his hands. Man, come on. You heard him, Linda said, triumphant. Open the gate. A sheriff's charger rolled up then, blue stripe crisper than Linda's decal. Deputy McRae stepped out. He's a big man with a quiet walk and eyes that miss nothing. He tipped his hat to me, then to the line of cars. What's happening, folks? He's blocking our road, Linda said, pointing like a schoolchild. He's violating. McRae held up a palm. Ma'am, let the man speak. I handed him the letter and the plat. Private road deputy. No recorded easement. An emergency use license that lapsed 6 years ago. I've revoked permission for non-emergency traffic. Fire has a Knox padlock key on the gate. I called them myself. He studied the papers. Took his time. He walked to the gate, read the sign, tested the swing. Came back slow, boots crunching. Looks in order, he said. This is a civil matter between Mr. Grady and the HOA. No criminal obstruction. Folks, you'll need to turn around and use Oak Lane. A wave of groans. Doors slammed. The line began to U-turn in the narrow space, tires scuffing my gravel. Someone shouted, "Hope your tractor gets stolen." Another muttered a word my mother would have washed out with soap. Linda stayed planted. Deputy, he's retaliating against a lawful fine for unsightly equipment. McRae's eyes flicked to the barn door, where the John Deere gleamed a little in the morning light. He smiled. The tiniest thing. My granddad had one just like it, he said. Didn't look unsightly when it plowed our driveway. I met his eyes. Sir, I'll be installing a chain by noon. You do that? He said. Make sure fire knows the code. He tipped his hat at Linda. Ma'am, she swallowed hard. Then tried a different tack. Thomas, this is unnecessary. If you pay the fine and move the tractor, we can talk about reinstating. No, I said. You rescind the fine. You apologize in writing. And we draft a simple license agreement, emergency use only. Plus a maintenance cost split if your board wants occasional commuter use for special events. Otherwise, this gate stays. Her cheeks flushed. We'll place a lien. Try it, I said. You'll hear from Earl. She turned on her heel. Drove off too fast, fishtailing on pea gravel. The rest followed, an angry parade. Red brake lights weaving back toward. The proper exit, like a school of fish forced into a new current. The quiet afterward was loud. I stood at the gate, listening to birds return. The wind pushed the flag. A dog barked 2 pastures over. I felt that old ache in my chest. Not anger. Sadness. Because this wasn't who we were supposed to be to each other. I spent the rest of the morning documenting. Photos of the gate. Photos of the sign. A video of the plat with my finger on the words "No easement of record." I stapled a weatherproof sleeve to the gate post with a copy of my letter inside. Tucked behind clear plastic so no one could say they didn't know, at noon, a man in a polo showed up with a tape measure and a clipboard. He introduced himself as infrastructure chair. He measured my posts like they'd committed a crime. He scribbled. You've created a safety hazard, he declared. Your shortcut created a habit, I said. Habits ain't rights. He left a note on my mailbox claiming I owed the HOA for damage to community thoroughfare. There. I laughed out loud. Then I filed the note behind the certified letter in the cedar box. Paper on paper. Memory on memory. That evening, my neighbor from the far end, Mr. Alvarez, retired Navy, drives a pickup older than his grandkids, pulled into my drive with a six-pack of root beer. He leaned on his hood and looked at the gate. "Never thought I'd see the day," he said. "Handing me a bottle cap cold? Me neither," he said. Linda's been talking about beautification again. Wants uniform mailboxes and no flags bigger than 2x3. Says it looks tidier. Stared at my porch where my father's flag moved in the fading light. "Over my dead lawn," I said. He chuckled. Then his face went serious. "She's been telling folks you're dangerous. Hothead. Says you threatened the board." I took a long pull of root beer. "I threatened their habit. That's all," he nodded. "You need to get ahead of her. Tell the story first." "How?" "Meeting," he said. "Neutral ground. The church hall. You bring your papers. Make it simple. Make it neighborly. Invite the sheriff. Invite the fire chief. Invite the folks who remember you plowing them out in 21 when we got 2 feet in one night." I looked at the gate. At the road beyond it, at the subdivision roofs poking above the pines like mushrooms after rain. "You think they'll come?" He smiled. "They'll come. People hate confusion more than they hate being wrong." We made flyers on my kitchen table. Big letters. Community information, night mill spur access, and SAF Wednesday 7 p.m. church hall. At the bottom, no yelling, no filming. Bring your questions. Leave the politics. I taped one to the gate, dropped a stack at the feed store, handed a few to the sheriff, left one on Linda's porch with a note. "You're welcome to speak." That night, the subdivision Facebook group lit up. I don't use it. But Mr. Alvarez's grandson screenshotted plenty. Words like tyrant and danger and retaliation swam alongside photos of my gate. Then, near midnight, a new comment surfaced. Someone posted a scan of the plat, circled the no easement. The thread went quiet for a while. Morning brought a different type of visitor. A woman I barely knew from the HOA's husband away on the road. 2 little boys with cowlicks and juice-sticky lips stood at my fence with a pie covered in foil. She looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry for yesterday," she said. Linda said, "Well," she says a lot. "I just wanted to thank you for plowing us in winter." She glanced at the gate. "We'll make do. Maybe leave 10 minutes earlier. It's not the end of the world." I took the pie. Warm through the foil. "Thank you," I said softly. Sometimes kindness shows up in small pans. Sometimes it makes more sense than 100 meetings, but we still needed the meeting. I called the fire chief. He confirmed they had the gate code. He thanked me for thinking of it. I called Earl, told him to bring his reading glasses, and that low voice that makes fools second-guess themselves. I laid out the deed, the plat, the letters, the photos, and my father's pocket knife, the one I'd used to sharpen pencils as a kid at the kitchen table while he told me that a man's lines matter. Wednesday night would tell me whose lines were going to hold. The church hall smelled like coffee and floor wax. Folding chairs scraped. The old piano in the corner flashed a chipped key like a snaggletooth. The flag by the stage leaned just a little left, the way flags in old buildings do, as if it had heard 1,000 hard stories and decided to rest. By 6:45, the place was half full. By 7:05, it was standing room only. I stood behind a borrowed lectern with the deed spread out like a prom corsage. Earl sat to my right, reading glasses on, tie loose like a promise he hadn't made yet. Deputy McCrae leaned against the back wall, arms folded, face neutral. The fire chief sat near the front, khaki shirt, black pen clipped to his pocket. Patient eyes. Linda arrived with 2 board members and a stack of folders. She wore pearls that caught the fluorescent lights and threw little sparks onto the ceiling. She sat in the front row, legs crossed, foot bouncing. I cleared my throat. No microphone needed. The room was listening. "Thank you for coming," I began. "My name is Thomas Grady. My property includes a road known as Mill Spur. For years, many of you have used it as a shortcut. I allowed it. I didn't love it, but I figured neighbors help neighbors. I held up the white envelope. Yesterday, I was fined $300 by the Mill Ridge HOA for owning a tractor visible from the road. It's my father's tractor. He taught me everything I know on it. The HOA says it's unsightly. I say it's my history. Murmur. A few nods. Someone clucked their tongue. I unrolled the plat and held it for the front row. There is no recorded easement for Millspur. There is only an emergency use license that expired 6 years ago. Emergency vehicles still have access. The fire department has the gate code. The sheriff has been notified. For everyone else, permission to use the road for daily commuting has been revoked. Not as punishment. As correction? I looked at the faces. Tired faces. Stressed faces. People thinking about kids' bedtime and morning alarms and dinner dishes left soaking. I know this is inconvenient. I do. But convenience is not a right. I turned to the fire chief. Chief, would you confirm you have gate access? He stood. We do, he said. We tested it this morning. Works fine. No safety issue on our end? I nodded. Thank you. I pointed to the projector screen where Mr. Alvarez's grandson had queued up a simple slide. 3 bullet points. No easement of record. Emergency use license expired 6 years ago. Private property rights respected. Community safety preserved. I kept it simple. Short words. Plain as the gravel on my drive now, I said. I want to say something neighbor to neighbor. This tractor? I nodded toward the photo of the John Deere on the next slide. It plowed this community out in 2021 when the county didn't come. It dragged Mr. Henderson's Buick out of a ditch. It mowed the field for the 4th of July picnic, where your kids ate watermelon and spit seeds like champions. It's not unsightly. It's useful. It's part of who I am. I put the papers down and rested both hands on the lectern. I'm not asking for much. I want the fine rescinded. I want a written apology from the board for attempting to place a lien on a property they don't govern. And if the HOA wants occasional commuter use for special events, we can draft a fair license, limited times, clear costs, shared maintenance. If not, that's fine too. Use Oak Lane like the plat says. But this gate stands until we respect each other's lines. Silence held the room like cupped hands. Then Linda stood, smoothing her skirt. She lifted her chin to the crowd. Neighbors, she began, we all joined this community to raise property values and maintain a standard. I sympathize with Mr. Grady's. Feelings, but rules are rules. We cannot have visible machinery, ma'am, Earl said, voice like a low bell. He didn't stand. Didn't need to. Mr. Grady is not under your covenants. There is no jurisdiction here, she faltered. But the view from the roadway is a view from a private roadway, Earl said, which your association has been using without legal right for years. A whisper ran through the hall. Someone in the back said, Wait, is that true? Linda flipped through her folder. Papers fluttered. We have attorney letters. Earl held up a hand. Letters are not easements. He pointed to the plat on the screen. Would you like to produce a recorded easement tonight? Her mouth opened, then closed. Her foot bounced faster. We were told by whom? Earl asked, eyes gentle. And did you check? A man in a Mill Ridge polo stood. I paid dues for road maintenance, he said slowly. Were we maintaining a road we don't own? Another whisper. Louder this time. The woman with the pie looked at me with wide eyes, then at Linda. The room shifted, invisible but heavy. Linda recovered some steel. Regardless, she said, his gait is punitive. Children, the fire chief stood again. Ma'am, there is no safety issue. Please don't use children as leverage, McCrae spoke from the back, voice carrying like a hymn. And there's no criminal issue either. I suggest we stick to facts and respect. A hand went up. Mr. Henderson, the Buick man, stood on unsteady knees. Thomas pulled me out of a snowbank at midnight 2 winters ago. Didn't charge me a dime. I gave him a plate of brownies. He gave me my dignity back. He turned to Linda. I don't care about your mailbox preferences or flags measured to the inch. I care about neighbors acting like neighbors. Applause started. Not thunder. Not polite. Something in between. Real. Linda's cheeks flushed. She looked small for the first time since I'd known her. She glanced at her board members, then at the crowd, then at the floor. When she looked up, the pearls sparkled, but her eyes didn't. We will. Review, she said stiffly. In the meantime, I recommend members refrain from using the spur. That's decided, I said. For now, the gate stays. Earl leaned to the mic. Board a proposal. Rescind the fine tonight. Issue a letter acknowledging lack of jurisdiction. Agree to cease collection for spur maintenance immediately. And, if you want, form a small working group to draft an occasionally's license with Mr. Grady. Simple, clear, neighborly. The room held its breath. Linda whispered with her board. Papers rustled. She straightened. We'll rescind the fine. In the lien language. Earl asked. She swallowed. And the lien language. And the maintenance collections. She nodded. We'll stop. Oh, and an apology, I said, because Dad would have wanted me to ask for it plain. In writing, she looked like the word hurt. Yes, the room exhaled. Someone laughed. Someone else clapped. The tension went down like the sun behind the ridge. After the meeting, people came up with hands out. Apologies. Thank yous. Stories about winter and borrowed tools and the way the old county fair used to smell like kettle corn and diesel. The woman with the pie hugged me. Mr. Protein Shake from Lot 14 said he'd been a jerk, and I believed he meant it. Even Linda approached, eyes softer. I was trying to make it nice, she said quietly. Not for the crowd. Matchy mailboxes. Clean streets. I thought that was my job. Nice is fine, I said. But not at the expense of respect. She nodded. I'll write the letter. She hesitated. Your father, he served, didn't he? He did. Vietnam. My dad was Navy, she said. A small truce offered like a seashell. I'm sorry about the tractor. Thank you, I said. It means something. We walked out into the cool night. Crickets. A faint smell of cut grass. Sheriff lights off. Just the reflection of the church sign in his windshield. My flag at home would be catching the same breeze. The next week, the HOA delivered the apology. Rescinded the fine. Stopped their spur maintenance fee. We drafted a simple license for emergency use only. No more shortcuts. The community found a new normal. Slower, maybe better. On Sunday morning, I climbed the tractor with a bucket of soap and a brush and washed every inch. Sun on my shoulders. Hands wet. Water beating on faded green. When I finished, I sat on the porch with coffee and watched the steam lift in the cool air. Dad would have approved. Sometimes standing up for what's right means standing alone, at least until others remember who they are and stand with you. That's the lesson I keep. That and the sound a gate makes when it closes with conviction. Have you ever faced an HOA like this? Share your story in the comments. I read every one. And if you believe some fights are worth having, hit subscribe. And let's stand up together.